sliding iron motorcycle?
Yes!
Right over here.
If I didn't have a skirt on, I'd sit on it.
Okay. I mean, you still can. I know this.
I'm gonna sign right there.
Perfect.
Okay. All right.
One more time, give a huge round of applause for her being here. And if you guys don't know, we're going to be giving this motorcycle away next year's Spandex. Thank you so much, Katie.
Oh no, absolutely. Thank you. Awesome. Okay. Focus, focus.
Let's give her a real welcome now. This is our second interview.
It is our second interview.
We met on the internet, you and I.
We did.
Well, kind of.
Yeah, that's how everybody meets
Those
these
dating
days.
sites are amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, welcome to Salt Lake City. Welcome. This is your first FanX.
It is my first FanX, yeah. Yeah. I was meant to be here last year, but I was filming Another Life, so.
No, we have begged, and now you're here.
Yes.
So
Finally
there.
back. But I've spent enough time. I've spent time in Salt Lake, though.
Can we just take just 30 seconds and just look at Katie Sackhoff? Would that be? Wow. All right, we're going to be taking questions from the audience. We're going to have some fun.
That was funny. Sorry. I guess we're going to just start taking questions, yeah?
We'll start. I always start with the first one.
Go for it, please.
Growing up, when did you first get that acting bug? When did you first fall in love with what you do?
Oh, it's funny. You know, I was always a big ham when I was a kid. If there was a table, I got up on it. So it was either being an actor, an entertainer, or a stripper. So, and I remember going to Universal Studios with my family when I was about 6 or 7. And I remember going on the E.T. ride and getting goosebumps. And I looked at my mom and I was like, I want to give people that feeling. And that's sort of when it bit me. But I grew up in a real small town, and you don't there's no roadmap, you know, to this career. And so I just sort of never really thought that this was something that could happen. And an opportunity sort of fell in my mom's lap for me to go and be Kirsten Dunst's body double on a movie called 15 and Pregnant. It was a Lifetime movie, and I went down and I was too tall to be her body double, but they asked me if I could act, and being the compulsive liar that I am, I always say that I'm just an overpaid compulsive liar.
And you hit your mark.
I do. I went home, I memorized my lines, I went back and I got the job, and I never looked back.
Great story. So anybody can do it. All right, we're going to have our first question. Remember, folks, no wagering. Okay, our first question.
Hello again.
Hi.
Hi. I know that you've done amazing series like Battlestar Galactica and Longmire, and having been part of those kinds of series that have that kind of longevity, earlier in your career when you did a couple of episodes, you did an episode of VR, and then you've also done an episode of 24, I believe. Which one of those series, if you could, would you have joined, and why?
Well, so I was actually in the entire last season of 24. So I was actually there for quite a while. It was an episode that I did called A Hopeless Wound. And it was an episode that was between the mini-series of Battlestar and our first season. I did not like it at all. Because I don't love being word for word. I think that unless I'm working, I mean, Aaron Sorkin was notorious for making his actors be word for word. I personally believe that I want to, if I'm not playing a character that's real, or, you know, that I want a tiny bit of spontaneity left for myself to inhabit the character. And so I'm usually about 85% memorized, and the words, I know 100% of what's on the page, but 85% comes out word for word, and the rest I sort of move around a little bit and inhabit the character, and you're not allowed to do that on ER, and I hated it. They're very word for word on that show. So I've gotten better at it as I've gotten older, but when I was 21, I was just terrible at it. Yeah.
All right, our next question.
Hi.
So in a couple of your recent interviews from this year, the same question was brought up. Like if you had the opportunity to do another life 10 years ago, you said you wouldn't have done it because you didn't feel mature enough. Is there something specific that happened between then and now that made you grow up, or is it just like, I don't know, natural?
This beautiful thing happens as you get older, where you realize how lucky you are sometimes to be in a situation that you're in. I think that when I was younger, I call it the blissful ignorance of youth. And sometimes I think that we think that things are so easy, you know, and a lot of things are for some people handed to them at a young age. And I always loved what I did. And I took it seriously, but the older I got, it became a career and a job. Whereas when I was younger, I was just plain, I think. Maybe out of a defense mechanism for the fear of failure, you know? What if it doesn't work? So I didn't want to commit fully to it, potentially. But I think that the older I got, the more I went, oh, I'm gonna have to really start working really hard, or this isn't gonna work. And so if I'd gotten another life when I was younger, I think I probably would have ruined it. I probably would have ruined it. Being the lead of a series is incredibly demanding, and you have a lot of responsibility and feel a tremendous amount of pressure for people's jobs. If you don't come to work on time one day, it's costing someone money. If you come to work one day and you're not prepared and the show doesn't get picked up for a second season, did you do it? And I think that for myself, putting that pressure on myself to be responsible for a lot of other people made me take it very, very seriously. And I don't know if I would have realized that when I was a kid.
Well, I think you did a really good job.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. First off, are we gonna have to watch you around the bike? Are you gonna?
It's gonna get stolen.
All right. So I thought I'd go with a little funner question. This room has suddenly become a giant karaoke bar, and you have to sing a song to get out. What song are you gonna sing?
I don't sing in public.
Think of this as a shower with 7,000 people here.
No. I have nothing. The only thing that's coming to my mind right now is, at first I was afraid, I was petrified. That's the only thing that's coming to my mind. And funny enough, I started in musical theater. I actually do sing, but I'd hate singing in front of people, which is why I'm no longer in musical theater. I had a choice when I graduated high school between going to New York and going to Los Angeles, and I cannot dance. And so I knew that I had to be a triple threat to make it on Broadway. And I knew that if I couldn't dance, I wasn't gonna make it. So I chose LA instead. Yeah. So.
Glad you did. Please.
Hi, Katie.
Oh my God, my legs are shaking, you guys. I hate singing in front of people. Okay.
How did you prepare for your role in Oculus?
I don't know, she was crazy. So I think that for myself, because I was an athlete, I think that any time there's a physicality to the role that I'm playing. That's sort of where I lean in. And for that character, when she turned into this like animal thing and I was crawling on the floor, the director and I practiced that a lot because he said, well, I know you want to do this, but how's it going to look? And it was sort of like this like weird animalistic parkour thing where I was like on walls and off walls and so that was the main thing for myself, is just I wanted to get that right, you know? Because when she turns and she goes crazy. So, but that was about it. So, I practiced strangling children, I'm just kidding. I had a safe word with these children because like, they were so committed. They're like, no, just strangle me. I was like, no. Where is your mother? I'm not strangling you. And so the little girl well, she's not little anymore, but she could hold her breath and turn her face like tomato red. And so at one point, I'm barely holding her neck, but I'm pretending, and her head's flopping, and it's bright red, and they called cut, and they were like, Katie, you can't do that to her. And I was like, I didn't do anything! She's doing it all! Like, she's holding her breath and shaking herself like a crazy person. It was amazing. It was amazing. It was amazing. I was like learning from her. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Hi, I in particular just connect with a lot of the characters that you choose and a lot of the stuff that you've done. So I'm just curious, what is it that makes you gravitate towards taking a role or working on a project, and where does that kind of come from and helps you decide?
So my dad gave me my love of movies. I grew up watching all the movies with my dad. I think he showed me Predator when I was like 7. Sorry, it's Father of the Year award. And Alien when I was a child. I mean, really, movies you should never show your child. And I gravitated toward the things that he and I watched together all the time. There were not a ton of strong women in projects when I was little. You know, I was born in 1980, so I wanted to be Bruce Willis. So I did. I wanted to save the Nakatomi building. I still do. Because it's the best Christmas movie ever made. Thank you. And so I remember falling in love with Sigourney Weaver and Linda Hamilton and Lucy Lawless, because it's like who I wanted to see on my TV these women were. And every single one of them played the role with so much strength, but they didn't remove their femininity and their vulnerability. It was still there. And I think a lot of times what makes women so strong is our vulnerability. And I think a lot of times actors strip that away because they're like, oh, well, she's so tough, and they play them so boyish and tomboyish. And I think that there is a vulnerability to female characters that are strong, that makes them stronger. And so I sort of gravitated toward the women I wanted to be when I was a little kid. And so that's sort of how I pick the roles, I think. And then sometimes it's just to be in a situation. You know, Battlestar, I really wanted to shoot guns. Because I had just played like the angsty teenager for a year on a Richard Dreyfuss TV show, which was great, but I was like, I don't want to be the whiny blonde chick anymore. Like, it's who I am in real life. So I fought really hard for Starbuck because I wanted to be that. I wanted to see how that felt. And I wanted to be Sigourney Weaver.
I would love to see a remake of Die Hard with you in the Bruce Willis part.
Thank you. I think so too. I think so too.
We'll have a meeting
We
later.
need to make that happen.
Please.
I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your experience on the Clone Wars, playing Bo-Katan and working with Dave Filoni and how it felt to be in Star Wars, and if there's anything you can tell us about the final season of Mandalore when it comes back on Disney Plus.
It's just a shower with 7,000 people here. Tell us some secrets.
So, like I said before, my dad showed me all these movies when I was a kid. Like, I grew up idolizing Star Wars. I used to say that I would be a rock if Lucas would allow me to. Like, just, please. And so when Dave called, I think that it made sense. I think when he called, it was sort of, he was a fan of Battlestar, and I think when they thought to themselves, we're going to make a female Mandalorian warrior, I think that it was like, oh, Katie Sackhoff, because she's done that before. Because for a long time, I would get phone calls constantly about, so we're going to change this male character into a female. Is Katie available? And so I jumped. I literally didn't even bat an eye. I was like, of course I'll do it. That being said, Disney makes you sign an NDA, which is a non-disclosure agreement. That is the biggest thing in the world. It's so thick. I can't tell you anything. I literally can't tell you anything. And it's so amazing. It's really amazing.
Oops.
And there's even more that I can't tell you.
Please.
First off, your YouTube channel is a hidden gem. If you people haven't found it, go to her YouTube channel.
Thank you.
It's the best. Second off, as a pioneer for women in sci-fi, what was it like to play a female character where the character was previously played as a male character as Starbuck?
Thank you for watching the YouTube channel, by the way. For those of you that don't know, I started a YouTube channel, and it was just my way of, there's so many questions that I get asked that are the same, but it's from so many different people. It has a lot to do with health and fitness and motivation and positivity and sort of a longer version of what my Instagram has been. And so it's fun. We've got 4 episodes, and so it's just fun. So anyway, check it out.
What is the YouTube channel called so we can locate
It's just my name.
Katie Sackhoff?
Very creative.
Wow.
Yeah.
Somebody spent all night looking at that.
And so when I first read the script for Battlestar Galactica, I had no idea that it was a remake. I had no idea. I was born a year after the original show had been on the air, so I didn't know. I booked the role, and then I called my parents, because maybe they knew I was testing or something. And I called my dad, and he was like, oh, that's amazing. That was a show when I was, when I was younger, and what's the role? And I told him, and he was like, what? And I told him again, and he was like, oh. You should go rent it, and then call me back. So we went down to Blockbuster Video. For all the children in the room, that was like a Netflix that existed. It was like a building you went into, and you searched the aisles. Sometimes the movie you went in to watch wasn't there, but it just made it better when it was. Anyway, so we went in, we rented it, we went home, opened a bottle of wine, and my best girlfriend and I sat down to watch it. We got 10 minutes into it and got really confused because we were like, they're talking about her. We should stop drinking. Let's rewind it. And then we rewound it and then sat there again, and I was like, oh. And I called my dad back and was like, oh. And I was like, it only lasted 1 season. Who's really gonna care? Everyone cared. Everyone cared. So, also children, the internet didn't exist in 2001. It sort of did. I mean, it existed, but there were these things called internet cafes. And I went down to the internet cafe and I bought my 30 minutes to log on to a chat group to see what people thought about me being Starbuck. Never do that. Never Google yourself. Never do that. Ever. It's like, it was a bad idea. But I realized, when I realized in all seriousness that it was a man and that I was going to be playing this character that people fell in love with, I realized then, plus he was also face, and I loved him as face. So I was like, oh God. I turned it off and I never watched the original series because I knew that I was not ever going to be Starbuck the way that it was, because it was literally physically impossible. So I needed to just trust what he was on paper or she was on paper and just try and make her my own and not try and be him or a version of him, but really just make a new character. So I've never seen it, except for the first 10 minutes twice.
There's a picture of you and Dirk Benedict at Starbucks. Was that real?
Yeah.
Starbuck at Starbucks?
Yeah, it was called Starbuck by Starbuck at Starbucks at Starbucks. It was really fun. He was lovely until he wrote that article entitled Save Starbucks Genitalia. And then he was not so nice.
I'm glad they didn't. You were great in that role. You were trend-setting in that role. And before you go, as a father of daughters, I want my daughters to watch women like you performing strong roles to set examples for how this generation needs to be.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think that so many times we justify a woman being there. And we start to say things like, well, but she did this and she did this, so she deserves to be there. I don't want to take it too seriously. We don't do that a lot with men, you know? And I think things are changing, and arguably there are things that men do better. Someone asked me who would win in a fight between myself and Apollo, and I was like, him. He's a guy. He would kill me. Like, his muscles are 8 times bigger than mine. So,
You're scrappy.
Yeah. I'm an ankle biter.
You're Grace Kelly with a machine gun.
So thank you. I appreciate that. I think that that's what was so great about Starbuck, was that no one ever talked about Starbuck being a woman. She just was, you know? So.
Kudos. Let's get a question.
All right, so in Battlestar Galactica, you use the word frack for the other word. I'm just wondering if you ever messed up a take and said the real one instead.
I think so. Not a lot, because we got so good at using the word that we used it all the time. That being said, for those of you that have seen Longmire and read, and who's read the books? Okay, so some of you. In the books, Vic swears every other word. I mean, it's F this, F that, it's crazy. And my character was not allowed to swear on television. So I've had 2 series back to back where you fake swear and then you can't swear, playing a character that people wanted to swear. And so for anyone who has seen Another Life, I swear a lot. But it'll be pulled back. I swear too much, I know. It was every other word, and then all the other actors were like, ooh, we can swear? Great. And then it was, I think Netflix called at like episode 3, and they were like, can they slow down on the F word, please? It's like every other word, we can't even cut around it. So, there's some adult language, it gets pulled back, I promise. I just got really excited.
If you're in Utah, you need to learn the word fetch.
Well, I know I do. Yes, there are words that I'm desperately trying not to say.
We
So
say that a lot out here.
yeah, it's okay. I say Holy Hannah at home.
Please.
On Battlestar Galactica, was there a storyline that you were involved with that you didn't particularly love or wish could have been told differently or maybe changed completely?
Yes, and I have said this, and Luciana and I have since had words about it, because it was not a personal attack on Luciana, whom I love very much, who played Kat. I did not like the storyline of Kat and Starbuck. For me, it felt like they were bringing in another woman to fight with a woman. It just felt like, why do we have to hate each other? Like, you know what I mean? And so I didn't love that storyline. Luciana looked at it a very different way. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I believe that she thought it was that she's pushing Starbuck's storyline forward, and so it served a purpose, which it did. I just didn't, I think that so many times as women we fight already, like we can be so catty. We're as harder on each other than we are on anybody else. And so I love to see relationships where women support other women, because that's what it needs to be, and so I didn't love that. I also didn't love when I tried to shoot the president for the same reason. I was gonna make a joke, I won't. No, not that.
Please.
So for many actors and actresses starting out in the profession, there's always that fear of, am I going to make it? When is my next job coming up? Do people know who I am? My question for you is, when was your first moment of success where you no longer had that fear looming over you? Like when you thought, okay, people know who I am and I can make it in this career.
I'm just trying to think if I feel that way now. I think that there's always a doubt of longevity, just because it's, I would love to be able to do this when I'm 70, I may not get that option. I don't know, right? So I realized, I think the moment I knew that I was going to at least be able to call my parents and be like, I'm gonna be okay, was when I booked the series with Richard Dreyfuss. I think that was that moment where I got to work with Marcia Gay Harden and Eli Wallach and Peter O'Toole, and like every episode was like another Oscar winner, and it was just like crazy, amazing. And I was 20 when I booked that. So I think it was a very big moment for me where I went, oh, wow, okay. At least faked it well enough to be here. So yeah, but you still worry, I mean, Another Life finished shooting in December 1st. I haven't worked since. Not out of choice. It just, part of it is that I can't do another series because I'm locked up on this one, but you never know. So it's sort of finding other things that bring you joy and a sense of success and fulfillment that aren't this has become very important.
Thank you.
You just listed some of the greatest actors around. Do you get starstruck still?
I get like starstruck from people like musicians. Not other actors. I never have. But musicians, yes. I went to a Bruce Springsteen concert. Obsessed with Bruce Springsteen. And it was his Christmas show, and if you've never been to a Bruce Springsteen concert, he plays forever and he moves around a lot. And he had on the Santa hat, so it must have been hot. And he dripped sweat and it went to my mouth. And there was a second where I was repulsed. And then there was right after, immediately, I looked at the person I was with and was like, Bruce Springsteen's a part of me forever. It's so excited. And I feel the look on his face was like, I was so excited. I was standing there like this. It's terrible, just hoping. So yes, I get starstruck by certain things.
Please. She's laughing. Later, she'll be at the edge of the stage dripping sweat on anybody that wants to donate to her charity, and she'll sweat on you.
It depends on how much you're going to give the charity.
Take a breath, and here we go.
Okay.
Okay.
I actually wanted to know how you felt working on The Big Bang Theory as being Starbucks again.
I'm a huge fan of The Big Bang Theory. Huge fan of pretty much anything Chuck Lorre does. I mean, I love every one of his shows. He's absolutely brilliant. The story behind that was that they had called to offer me to play myself at a convention. The episode wasn't written yet, and I didn't know what they were gonna have me do at a convention, and I was a little worried that they were gonna like turn me into like this crazy witch, mean person. So I was like, I really wasn't comfortable with that, so I turned it down. Tricia Helfer, are you good?
Just swallowing my pride.
Just don't die on me. I've played a doctor, but I am not one.
How are you at mouth to mouth? Sorry. Go on.
So Tricia Helfer did an episode of of 2.5 Men. And Tricia, those episodes are shot live. And most actors don't do live television unless you've done 30-minute comedies. And so she was very nervous. And so I was the tequila mule. And I was driving tequila shots across town in LA traffic trying to get shots of tequila to her on set because she'd forgotten it. She needed a little juice to help her out. And so I driving as fast as I could get there. I knock on the door to her thing. She literally grabs the tequila and like shuts the trailer door on my face. And I was like, what? And she was like, you don't get to watch. I was like, I just drove for like an hour and a half to bring you Patron. Fine, I'll leave. So I'm walking back to my car and I saw Chuck Lorre. And I had just seen Tricia, so she was like right in my mind. And Chuck said, Katie, how are we gonna get you on The Big Bang Theory? What are we gonna have to do? And I just went, I don't know, just make me Wolowitz's number 6 and I'll come do it. So that's what happened. Yeah. And the Bastic scene is amazing, and getting to work with George was amazing. That was like a dream come true, because I grew up watching Star Trek with my dad, not knowing it was reruns, so I thought I could marry Captain Kirk. Like, honestly, I thought people might look down on it. There's an age difference. I'm 7, he's 35. But, one day I'll be grown. I thought that. I didn't know he was 60 already. So many jokes in this. I'm sorry.
You know all the Shatner jokes, so I'm not gonna...
Oh, no, I don't. Sorry. I guess I shouldn't have made that joke then.
There's a famous story of him sitting in a makeup chair going, do I look 35? You make me look like 35. It was like,
60?
That was just a week ago. Please.
Okay, spoiler alert.
Oh, for which show?
For if you haven't watched Battlestar Galactica, which I hope.
Okay, if you haven't seen Battlestar.
Yeah.
Okay, if you haven't watched it now, you deserve to suffer.
Yeah, pretty much. And if you're not listening to, or if you have not binge watched Another Life, you definitely need to do that too, because it is so good.
Netflix.
Yeah. But
It's not like Battlestar, so if you go in and thinking, you're gonna be disappointed.
yeah. So my question is, how do you feel about the controversial ending, your ending in Battlestar?
Why is it controversial?
Oh,
because she just went.
Yeah, pretty much.
What do I think about that? I don't know. I mean, so here's the thing. I think that they sort of wrote themselves into a corner with Starbuck. There was only so much you could do to explain what had happened. And I think that they kind of did the only thing they could do, which was leave it incredibly ambiguous and have her story mean whatever it was going to mean for each individual audience member. You know, who she was and who she became and all of that stuff is very individual for people because there was no completion to her. And so I liked it. I don't think they could have done it any other way.
This is so unprofessional. I don't know what I am.
It's not. You are not allowed to cough.
I'm not in front of you, no. I have to tell you, though, that the ending to Battlestar Galactica, the last show, greatest moments on television. It was a beautiful, beautiful ending.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's hard to say goodbye to a show after so many years. You know, I auditioned for Starbuck when I was 22 and said goodbye to her when I was 28. Like, I don't want to say that I grew up playing her because I started acting 10 years before that, but no, I'm aging myself. 5 years, 6 years before that. But like, I'm really bad with math. But I did go through my awkward 20s as her. That sort of time where women don't often, from my perspective, speaking for myself, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I wanted to be. I knew the vague things that I wanted to accomplish in life, but you realize as you start to realize more, I guess, solidly as you get into your 30s. So I did grow up playing her. So yeah.
Please.
Thank you. If you could go out onto the showroom floor and not get hounded by people, what would you be geeking out about? What would you gravitate towards?
I actually can walk the floor, and most people don't recognize me. I can.
I don't believe that.
It's true. I walk the floor at Comic-Con. Every year I've been to San Diego, I've walked the floor. And unless if you're with security, people recognize you. If I'm by myself, I think a lot of times people think that I'm going to be dressed in fatigues and punch them. And so I think that there's a lot of times where, and I've, so many years have gone by since I played Starbuck, I think I can sort of skate through. But what would I geek out about? Well, there were some really cute sweatshirts that I saw that had little ponies on them. I like that kind of stuff. I like any shirt that's got bedazzled like frogs on it or My Little Pony. Anything that makes me feel like I'm still 5, I love. So I would geek out over that stuff. And I like rhinestones.
You're going to get a lot of gifts. Please.
In this time of binge watching that we are falling into, is there shows that you find yourself gravitating toward or going back and just watching the entire series over and over again?
So I don't watch series over. I haven't. I don't want to say I don't, but I have never watched a series over and over and over again. But I just binged the heck out of Carnival Row. I mean, I think that I finished it with my boyfriend in 3 days. It was amazing. And I watch a lot of cooking shows. I just watched Final Table on Netflix. Loved it. I do.
Are you a good cook?
I mean, I can cook.
Are you cook?
I'm proficient at cooking.
You should do a cooking show in this year.
My mom taught me 2 things to cook when I left home. One was how to steam vegetables in the microwave, and the other was how to cook a piece of salmon. That's all I knew how to do. And then during Battlestar Galactica, actually, it's so sad. It's so sad. I was steaming vegetables, and I opened the plastic wrap off it too fast, and because I was on the phone, and my whole hand got just burnt to like crap. And so I'm on the phone with my mom trying to figure out what to do, since she taught me how to work this torture device. And she's like, well, you need to trap the air. Like, if you can get the air from hitting the burn, it'll feel better. Do you have tape? And I was like, no. She's like, do you have a bag? I was like, no. So I found a bag from just like the like CVS, and I wrapped it around my hand. And she was like, do you have tape? And I said, no, but I have maxi pads. I maxi padded my wrist up, and I walked to the ER with a plastic bag and maxi pads on my hand, and walked in and was like, I don't know how to cook.
Watch that be the one time somebody recognizes you.
It was the first season of Battlestar. It was like, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know.
Please.
You've hinted a couple of times that you're familiar with Utah or Salt Lake. Can you tell us about your experience and what you think about our home here?
Yeah, so my family came through here in a Winnebago when I was really little. And so I have memories of Utah with my family when I was little. And then when I was 15, my brother was sent to boarding school here. And so I have memories of that trip too. And then when we picked him up, we went on another like family vacation and sort of like, you know, but I love it here. I wish that I'd been able to stay longer because I am desperate to hike. And there's so many amazing hikes here that I haven't been able to experience, and I just beautiful, beautiful hiking, and I absolutely want to come back and do like all of them. I don't know if that's possible in a weekend. It's not, but I want to try.
You know, I'm feeling better now. I coughed through your whole thing. Well, we got a few minutes left. Let's talk.
Yeah. Let's talk. What do you guys want to talk about?
Are you going to ever direct and produce and stuff like that? I mean,
so I produced the new show Another Life, which was really cool, and I loved every second of it. It's very fun as an actor to finally be heard by your bosses in a very like power position way of like, no, you have to. Like, I'm just kidding, it's not that bad. But like it was very empowering to have an opinion. You know, I've been doing this for so many years now, and I do feel like my opinion, especially in sci-fi, is valid. I grew up watching it, I've spent so many hours on set, and so that was fun for me. I really enjoyed it. I have no desire to direct, because I can barely handle one actor. I don't need a room full of them. They're crazy. Yeah.
A lot of pressure.
And they whine. So whiny.
Please.
So I thought it would be the first question, but it hasn't been asked. What do you hear, Starbuck?
Nothing but the rain.
But I do have a real question. I do have to say, I was a huge fan of the original Battlestar Galactica, but you by far were the best Starbuck. I mean, no question. No question.
Thank you.
My question is, I mean, I've watched a lot of panels and conventions and things that you've done. Has there been a question, an answer to a question that you've prepared that you're like, if someone asks this question, I've got a great answer for it, and nobody's asked the question yet?
Yes, but it's usually personal questions that I've like prepared my answers to. So, and yeah. You know, there's so much of my private life. I got into this business, I welcomed this business. You know, social media didn't exist when I started. So there is a part of me that feels like, someone's like, well, you asked for it. It's like, no, I didn't. This did not exist when I was a kid, you know, when I started. It was just, I'm an actor, you know. But I do so much appreciate connecting with the fans, so I have welcomed it into my life to a certain degree. But there are things sometimes that I have held close to myself. And then other things that I'm so open about, almost too open about. But there are definitely things that I've sort of like prepared myself, personal questions where I'm like, not today.
Thank you so much. That was our last question. Ladies and gentlemen, Katie Sackhoff.
I can't believe I didn't swear. That's the first panel I've ever done where I haven't swore once. I'm growing up.
I hope this was the most fun you've ever had.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys so
One more time, give a huge round of applause for Katie.
Thank you guys. Honestly, seriously, I have a career because of you guys, so I am just so indebted to you. Thank you so much for your love and your support and continuing to watch the stuff that I do. You guys, this is a dream come true, and I appreciate every single one of you, so thank you very much.